Hey everybody, it's Nate coming to you from PalenMusic.com. It's time for another Chords and Coffee. And I wanted to, before I even take a drink of coffee, I wanted to give you a little something. When you go to the music store, or even you just picking up your own guitar just for the pure enjoyment of it, I think there is a very clear, distinct line in the sand between good noodling and bad noodling. And I want to talk about that for a little bit, but more importantly, I want to arm you and equip you with just some stuff that I really enjoy to do, and I just want you to have it. So, this Chords and Coffee episode is about how to just play freely as you can. There's a great Chick Corea quote where he talks about how when we're improvising, I think he said something like, we're only improvising like 30% of the time. The rest of it, we're just kind of playing things that we've already kind of worked out. And this is what I'm really talking about. You ought to have some things that are just kind of in your hands that you just like the way it feels in your hands. You like the way it sounds to your ears. You like experiencing the guitar in this way. And just having some good noodling vocabulary is super important. Because when you go to try out a guitar, or if you're trying to discover some kind of part to play, sometimes I play in a group where there are multiple keyboard players, multiple guitar players, bass and drums, and I can't just play, because there may be like 2 or 3 other people covering effectively that idea, some sort of forward momentum, rhythmic idea. And so I got to come up with something else that sits on top of that. And so I got to have a place to go to. And that place that I go to is in that place where I just enjoy playing. And I just like the different sounds that you can get when you combine chords. And some of this I'm going to show you is sort of like a little bit of a, like Ted Green would call it, chord chemistry. Or it's my own chili recipe, if you will, for how I approach getting chords together and being able to come up with some good noodles. Well, what's the difference between a good noodle and a bad noodle, Nate? Are we talking about pasta right now? No. What we're doing is we're talking about playing guitar, and we're talking about, bad noodling is when you are playing, you are not serving the song, you are literally only serving your own ego because your true intention is just to draw attention to yourself, right? Good noodling is when you are sort of very freely and very creatively exploring sounds on the guitar and trying to almost compose as spontaneously as you can, but within the constraints of kind of what your hand already knows. So you kind of got to teach your hand some stuff, right? So you've been learning chords, but do you know how these chords work together? You've been learning scales, but do you know how these scales work with these chords? And so that's what I want to show you real quick. I want to show you a really simple thing, kind of like what I was just messing around with here in just a second. And in order to do that, I got to get out the old dry erase board, okay? So we're going to do this in the key of E. Why? Because I want you to have that low E string kind of ringing like a drone so you can do these different chord shapes while that low E is going so you can hear how it all works together. So in the key of E, I've got, like every other key, 7 notes. And the notes in the key of E are as follows. I've got an E. I've got an F sharp. I've got a G sharp. I've got an A. I've got a B. I've got a C sharp, and I've got a D sharp. Now that is the do, re, mi, fa, so, ti, la, do Sound of Music scale, right? Now if you don't know E major scale, comment below. Nate, I don't even know the darn E major scale. Hey friend, you're in the right place. Don't freak out. Don't panic. Send me a comment. You can shoot me an email, Nate White, NATEWHITE @PalenMusic.com. Be happy to help you with that. Super simple. There's also the internet, and there's all kinds of stuff out there on that too. So I need to build chords with this scale, let me demystify this for a second. When you're looking at a scale, think of this as a collection of colors. That's it. Even better, it's really numbers. It's really math. Don't get scared off. Math is our friend. It's taken me 47 years to be able to say that. Math is our friend, right? So with that, these colors yield chord. Why am I calling them colors? Because you're basically going to paint with them. And the chords that they yield, there is a mathematical expression to get you there, okay? What is that expression? Well, you need a 1, a 3, and a 5. What in the world are you talking about, Nate? Well, I'm going to show you. 1, 2, 3. I'm going to write this G sharp down right here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I'm going to write this B right there. Friends, that's an E major chord. Hallelujah. Now, this same thing that I just showed you works for every single chord. So if I count up from F sharp, 1, 2, 3, that's an A. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, C sharp, that's the 5. And I just keep following suit all the way down. All the way down. And also, if you're really paying attention, as I'm doing this, I could literally, another way to think about it is I could start the scale from here and then just copy it down because it ends up being the same thing. This is also where we get modes and the idea for modes. So 2-for-1 benefit, if you can kind of grasp this chord concept, it's the same thing as modes. I think it's kind of an easier way to approach this. You know, there's a guy named Guthrie Trapp. If you don't follow Guthrie Trapp on Instagram, you should, because he actually does a much better job of explaining this than what I'm going to give you. But welcome to Chords and Coffee. Let's keep going. So I'm writing down all of these notes, and I'm basically going 1, 3, 5, 1, 3, 5 all the way across. And so I've basically spelled an E major triad, an F sharp minor triad, G sharp minor triad. What do you mean by triad? 3 notes. That's what I mean. It's got 3 notes. That makes it a triad. That's what it's all about. So I basically spelled every chord in the key of E major, F sharp minor, G sharp minor, A major, B major, C sharp minor, and then D sharp diminished. Now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to put a little Roman numeral above this. And the reason I'm doing that is the way you will often see these things written down. And make no mistake about it, as a guitar player, you're going to be reading chord charts way more often than you're going to be reading standard notation. Am I telling you you don't have to worry about learning to read music? I'm not saying that, but I'm just saying I am not a good music reader myself, nor are many of my heroes. However, if you're going to be a legit classical player, a legit jazz player, you're probably going to have to learn how to read music, friend, okay? There's a great lesson or a great Chords and Coffee I did with Carl Verheyen, and he talks about this. That'd be a great thing to reference because he really gets into that pretty deep, and he's an expert on the subject. So, with that, looking at this right now, all of these look fairly unique unto themselves. You're like, well, what do you show me here, Nate? I don't get it. I'm going to add one more note to this equation. And as soon as I do that, this is where we start to really cook this pasta. This is when you start to get into, oh, I now see how I can start to noodle with this or start to be creative with it. So the note I'm going to add is the 7th. What do you mean by the 7th? Well, just as much as I went 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 to get these notes, I'm going to go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 to get this note. And I'm going to do it all the way through. What's that going to do for us? Friend, buckle up, buttercup. So, look at this. Now, if you don't see it, you're about to. E, G sharp, B, and D sharp. What's that give you? Well, that gives you E major 7. Now, if you look at all these chords and really look at them close, you might start to realize, wait a second, wish I had a different color mark. We'll just go with this. Look at this. You see this? Look at this. This is a G sharp minor. You see that? Right here, I've got a G sharp minor hiding inside this E major 7. Well, wait a minute. What's this right here? Look at this. You see this? This little B, this D sharp, and this F sharp? Look at here. Look at that. I got that hiding right there. Wait a second. C sharp, E, G sharp, B. What are you talking about? E, G sharp, B. Look at this. E, G sharp, B. You see how they're kind of hiding here in one another. Now, this is one way, this is one idea to get your fingers noodling, okay? If you're like, Nate, I feel like I've just opened the Ark of the Covenant, my face got melted off. Indiana Jones reference. If you feel like that and you're like, what else is there? There's a lot more. But let's just explore just this one idea. Just this one idea. So what we're talking about is we've got an E chord, we've got a G sharp minor and a C sharp minor and a B, and they're kind of sharing the same notes because we've added, this chord extension, this extra note to make it a seventh chord. So here's E, here's B. Well, that's a weird looking B. Well, I'm just playing 3 notes in this B. So I'm playing the 4th fret of the D with my index finger, and then I'm holding down the 4th fret of the G and the 4th fret of the B string. And if I have this E in the bass on this low E right here, listen. Little rattle there. But that's an E major 7. Right? And if I wanted to say, well, where's the closest E? I did a lesson on the cage system. Do you remember that? If you don't, comment below and I'll send you a link. Give me your email address and I'll send you that. But if I make a C bar chord shape, so good old C, if I move it up here, it's D, throw a bar on it, Under the Bridge, Red Hot Chili Peppers. That whole thing, right? If I go up one more, there's an E, right? Well, look here. Here's a C sharp minor right there. You know this chord. And if you don't, here it comes. Index finger across the 4th fret from the A string to the high E string. And then I'm going to put my middle finger on the 5th fret of the high E. And then my ring finger on the 6th fret of the D. And that G is being held down by my human capo right here on my index finger across the 4th fret. Right? And now if I put an E in the bass of that, and even if I let that C sharp ring, the more I do that, it actually starts to sound something more akin to something like this. Like a 6th chord. So right there, I've got this little maneuver here. This little G sharp minor to this C sharp minor to this E. Now, you might be saying, okay, I'm not following you. I'm seeing how all these things are interconnected, interrelated, but what do I do with this information? If you can connect these chord shapes that you already know, and you can connect just pieces of them, if you can just connect these pieces of them, or if you can think of it as 2 points on a noodle, then what you can do is you can discover little licks and things that are hiding in there and just getting from one point to the next. Here's what I mean. If I'm on this E chord, this standard shape right here, well, how would I express this into like a guitar lick? Maybe just that. So I'm sliding on the from the 1st fret to the 2nd fret of the D string, and then hitting that index finger on the 1st fret of the G. And then I need to get to this B. So I'm right here now in this shape. And I just slid up from the D, or excuse me, on the G string from the 2nd fret to the 4th fret on the G string. And then now I'm in my mind, I'm kind of in this B major zone. Well, now I need to get in this C sharp minor zone. What if I just went and just did this little easy sweep lick where I'm going from the 6th fret of the G to the 5th fret of the B to the 4th fret of the high E. Sort of the top of the C sharp minor chord. So, and then maybe from here I need to get to this B shape. And then back to this E. Well, what does that yield? Well, if I'm just kind of noodling around here, I threw the A in the bass. Let me do that again. what's that right there? I just went to C sharp minor and did this little hammer on from the 9th fret to the 11th fret on the D string, making a very basic C sharp minor chord, and I've got my index finger across the 9th fret of the E, the B, and the G, down to this B chord, okay, with index finger on the B string of the 7th fret, middle finger is on the 8th fret of the G, and then ring finger is on the 9th fret of the D. And so all I'm doing is, in my mind, I'm just thinking about E, good old E shape, cowboy E, first E you ever learned, Mel Bay, book 1, page 1, E, right? To this B shape right here, minus the A string. I'm just playing just this little part. To this C sharp minor right here. To this B chord right here. Kind of an F shape, right? You tracking? And then this C sharp minor shape right here. And then when I feel like it ought to change to A, it just feels like it's time to change the chord, and so I just put the A note in the bass. Well, why does that work? Well, because all of these notes that I'm playing against this E, I have established a very strong E tonal center. This is E major. Why is it E major? Because all these notes are straight out of the E major scale. There's no surprises. It's just the way that I'm noodling them together or linking them together by going from point A to point B. That's where the creativity lies. And you might be thinking like, well, wait a second. When and where am I going to apply that? You should just noodle around when you're just playing and just find some things that you like. Because the idea is that you want to be able to have some connective tissue between these chords and these different, this also works for scales, by the way, and these different scale ideas, so that when you hear something that you like, all of a sudden you should go, wait a minute, let me stop and really work on that. Let me find out, what is it that I like about... Right there, all I'm doing is I'm just playing this B shape here over this C sharp minor. So my index finger is on the 7th fret of the B with my ring finger on the 8th fret of the G, and then my middle finger is on the 8th fret of the G. And then my ring finger is on the C sharp, which is on the 9th fret of the low E. And so I'm kind of playing like this, but just in a different way. And then when I go to this shape, this is ring finger still on the 9th fret of the low E, and then, middle finger. I don't know which finger's which. Just use one of your fingers. Okay, middle finger is on the 9th fret of the low E, and then ring finger is on the 9th fret of the D, and pinky's on the 9th fret of the G. So that's like a B over C sharp to C sharp minor. That works. I know it works mathematically, but more importantly, I like the way it sounds. And that's something that I will... if I'm in a situation where I'm sitting on a C sharp minor chord with the band, or even just noodling around, or giving someone else a rhythmic bed to solo on top of, I can say, play E major, you're going to sound great, I got you, right? That's a great place to start. Well, Nate, I've been told not to noodle. I've been told that it's bad. I've been told that it's a waste of time. It's only a waste of time if you're not noodling musically. If you're just noodling mindless, activities that just sound like lots of math, and especially for the sake of just speed. And I'm not down on speed, but I'm just telling you, if you're noodling, it sounds like songs and sounds like music, and somebody goes, what is that? That's a good noodle to me. That's the kind of noodle that is inspiring, and also you're teaching your hands these chords, but also you should be teaching your hands good touch, right? How to get good tone out of the guitar, how to walk up to any guitar, an amplifier, or acoustic guitar, and be able to coax some good tone out of it. Friends, there's good noodles out there, healthy and nutritious. So with that, there are lots of ideas. This is just a little tiny tip of the iceberg. This is one piece of elbow macaroni noodle that, if you like this, there's a lot more we could go down this rabbit hole, as far as, a lot more information, a lot more ways of thinking about it, a lot more A lot more things that would open up other doorways that would create an even further descent into this. If you're up for it, I'm down to clown. Let's do it. So comment below. Do you like this? Does this speak to you? Is this helpful? Do you feel like, man, this is way over my head? Or do you feel like, man, I know all that stuff already. What else you got? Your comments are really important to me. Your feedback is important to me. Most of all, I really appreciate how you encourage me and you encourage one another. I see the way you guys interact in the comments, and that means the world to me because we have started the most encouraging group of guitar players on the internet. That's what Chords and Coffee is all about, living life the best we can with a guitar in our hand. Friends, I look forward to seeing you next Saturday morning, 9 a.m. for another Chords and Coffee.